Let's talk now about a different model for software development, which is iterative incremental development. In incremental development, we develop the software in increments, a fully function-first increment, then the second increment, which works seamlessly with the first increment, and the third increment, which works with the two previous increments, and so on, till we finish the whole software. In incremental development, we deploy each increment at the customer site. In iterative development, we might only know high-level requirements, but not the details. So we develop the first iteration with the information we have, then we provide the result of this iteration to the customer for testing and evaluating, then we build the second iteration upon the feedback from the customer. The customer might add, remove, or change anything. In iterative development, we might need to deploy the results of the iteration to the customer. So in incremental development, we deploy each increment at the customer for sure, but in iterative development, we might not deploy the increment to the customer. Some other models can be based on both the incremental and iterative concepts, so it will be a mix between the two models. In either models, we go on a series of shorter cycles and get feedback from the customer before we continue to the next cycle. Each cycle involves everything a full software project might have, from requirement, design, coding, testing, and maybe deployment. For each cycle, a requirement is defined and a version of the code is produced, which will allow testing by users at the end of each iteration. A decision is made on which extra functionality needs to be created for the next iteration. This process is then repeated until a fully working system has been produced. This is unlike the waterfall model, where the customer is only involved during the early requirement and late deployment phases. On my early days as a software developer, I had a project where the customer totally forgot about the project and thought that my company went out of business because we haven't talked to him for over 6 months after the requirement phase. We were developing the software, I told him, but he didn't like this. So unlike the waterfall model, a key feature of iterative development is the involvement of users in the testing. The users are encouraged to request changes to the software to meet their business needs. The main point related to testing in iterative models is that we need to test a lot, and we need to test very quickly. That's why you might need to automate the testing to make it as fast as possible. There are two types of automation testing. We can use any kind of them or both of them at the same time. One is where testers write their own test scripts to be run by testing automation tools. The second type of automation testing is where the developers, with the help of testers, write code to test their own code. So they are writing code to test their own code. So developers write code to test another code, using what we call unit testing frameworks. In either case, when testers or developers need to test the system, they simply run the scripts, and the power of the computers these days will do the job for them. No need to manually click and type to test anymore. But that of course requires that testers do need to know some kind of programming to help them create those scripts. Testers in iterative incremental models need to have some sort of a change control system to keep a good eye on the software changes as they happen very often. Forms of iterative development include prototyping, rapid application development, and agile software development, for example, Scrum and XP or Extreme Programming, and also Rational Unified Process, RUP. In summary, in any life cycle model there are several characteristics of good testing. For every development activity, there is a corresponding testing activity. Second, each test level has test objectives specific to that level. 3. The analysis and design of tests for any test level should begin during the corresponding development activity as we have seen in the V model. Last, testers should be involved in reviewing documents as soon as drafts are available in the software lifecycle. Thank you.